topic and this conversation. Thank you. And when we came up with this topic of the future of jobs, we're talking about the future of jobs from hustle to scale. My people, we all know the songs, I'm a hustler. I'm a hustler. We have all these songs about hustle. Everybody on the continent knows someone who has a hustle, right? We don't take anything away from that. But it was really important to us as an organization that is pushing job creation that we start thinking about how do we make this hustle scalable? How do we ensure that we learn from those who've gone before us? And how do we ensure that we replicate this? And so today, being that this session is part of the Catalyzing Change Week. It's the 5th year, by the way. I think it deserves a little applause. 5th year of Catalyst now running this Catalyzing Change Week. We thought let's focus on job creation and looking at how we can move from hustle to scale, because job creation is one of our focus areas, one of our action areas within Africa Forward. Why are we doing this? You all know the figures. A lot of you are either living on the continent or know people on the continent, right? So there's an urgency and there's a responsibility really around really accelerating job creation. So we know the stats, right? We've all heard it. By 2050, 1 in 4 young people in the world will be African. By 2025, nearly half of our continent will be children and will be youth, right? That is an incredible statistic. For a quarter of the people you meet will be African. Now, obviously, we know that this is a wonderful opportunity, but at the same time, it could very easily be a ticking time bomb. And so for us, we just feel a real sense of urgency around accelerating and amplifying the voices of those who are successfully doing this with their businesses, combining profit with purpose, doing good with doing well, understanding how their hustle started and how they elevated. You've heard the song, whether it's Ciara's, we're leveling up, right? So we've seen and we want to hear from them directly about how their hustle has scaled. So please pay attention, pay close attention, write out your questions and think about why we want to do this. And so Africa Forward sees itself as an almost broker within this space. We support social entrepreneurs. And so we're working on the policy side of things. We're working on data. We're working on job creation. We're working on ensuring that the finance in this area is sustainable. So I'm not going to speak too much about Africa Forward, but I'm going to do my introduction of this panel that has me excited. And in no particular, actually, it wasn't supposed to be in any particular order, but now that I think about it, it's actually in order. It's in order on the map from west to east to Southern Africa. So I'm going to do my intros in that direction. And I'm going to start, first of all, with engineer Obi Charles Nana. And I'm sure that if you take one look at him, you'll see that this is someone who is very much representative of this demography we're talking about that is going to be imploding on the continent by 2050, right? Obi is young, he's dynamic, and Obi is one of Africa's leading sustainability and recycling entrepreneurs. Obi is the founder and the CEO of Kautani. It is Nigeria's first end-to-end industrial recycling company. Please listen, industrial recycling, because there are a lot of people doing this, but this is what we're focusing on. We're going to scale. Obi is transforming Africa's waste challenge into jobs and working on the circular economy and climate impact. He's already created thousands of opportunities and is driving CO2 reduction across communities. Obi has worked for 4 Fortune 500 companies. I don't know how you've done this in the little time that you've had, Obi. We need to be talking about how you've also done this. 4 Fortune 500 companies and raised over $4 million in seed funding. He's earned global recognition, including the Meaningful Business, I beg your pardon, 100 mention, Tropics African Doers, and multiple climate and innovation awards. He's featured on BBC, CNBC, Africa, Arise News. You all have someone incredibly treasured here in this space. He's absolutely one of our most influential climate leaders. So please, let's show some appreciation. Use your emojis, put in your messages in the chat. Just let them understand that this is for us, by us, and it's really lovely to have you here. Thank you, Obi. Now I'm moving on to East Africa in the house, and this is super exciting. We have the lady, the queen, very well recognized. She needs no introduction. She's the queen of tea. You've heard that, right? Queen of tea. Flora Mutahi is an absolutely incredible founder. She's the CEO of Melvin Marsh International. This is the company behind Melvin's Tea. I'm sure so many of you are familiar with this. It is Kenya's, please get it right, Kenya's first flavored tea brand and a pioneer that is absolutely growing across Africa and the world. That is what we want to see. That is what we want to replicate. We cannot simply be importers of goods. We want to be exporting it. Super exciting. And we've seen that already with our two speakers. Now, for nearly 30 years, guys, this is not a fly by night, as we say in Nigeria, discovery here. For 3 decades, Flora has been building East Africa's most beloved consumer brand. She's on a mission to ensure we have premium, proudly packaged Kenyan tea sitting on global shelves. I mean, can we get an amen for that? We want the African product sitting on global shelves. She is an absolute champion for entrepreneurship and scale. She's supporting founders through board roles. She's paying it forward, guys. Can you hear this? She's paying it forward. She's mentoring. She has her scale mastery program. She's helping African businesses move from survival to systems. I mean, I love that. I feel like I should have that on a t-shirt. Strategy, sustainable growth, and she's a trailblazer, as you all can see, in a male-dominated industry. So she's made history. You know, it's wonderful to see you're doing the business, you're paying it forward. She's made history as the first female chair of CAM and KEPSA, and she founded the Women in Manufacturing Initiative. So again, going into industry, thinking about how we can bring about systemic change. And she is leading Kenya's first gender mainstreaming policy for the private sector. You know, that is incredible. Again, longevity, sustainability. Of course, with all of that, she's been recognized globally. Flora has been included on the Forbes 50 over 50 list and awarded a head of state commendation. She continues to shape Africa's business landscape. As you can see, you all please help me welcome her. And I thank you. I'm loving the emojis coming through, but you can see that we were not playing around when we came up with these speakers today. Okay, so now next we're moving. I love how we're going. Remember, I told you we're going according with the map. We've got west, we've done east. Now we're going to South Africa. Woohoo! Which Africa Forward, by the way, will be moving. It will be all roads leading to South Africa, the G20 zone. Renee, we're thrilled to have Renee Parker. Renee Parker is a force. Renee Parker, and we deliberately thought about the mix. Where is she coming from? What zone? So we've heard from two entrepreneurs. She's an innovator and an entrepreneur who is working with a collective of young people. And I'll tell you a bit more about what she's doing. Renee has a track record of building social ventures at scale. She's like, I'm going to ensure that we're replicating. Let's build as many of you social entrepreneurs as possible. She's a co-founder and director of Our Labs. That is an organization, again, needs no introduction. I love hearing stories about transformation and how it started, because remember, today's topic is from hustle to scale. As a co-founder of and director of Our Labs, what did Renee do? She went from transforming a small community project in Cape Town into an award-winning global social enterprise. Please listen. It's been replicated. Thank you for those emojis. Replicated in 24 countries. 24 countries, impacting 50 million, because she's decided we're not going to do it alone. Let's look for how to basically combine forces, right? So it's in 24 countries and impacting over 50 million people. As of recent, Renee has also been appointed board chair of AfriLabs, amongst the several other boards that she's a member of. AfriLabs are Africa's largest network of innovation hubs. So she's going to be multiplying again her impact across these fields. So she's going to be working on innovation and gender equity across the continent. She's obviously in this role led successful fundraising, raisings, and partnerships. And Our Labs and Junk Food, a crowdfunding platform for female entrepreneurs, co-founded Our Labs Angels, investing in high-growth African startups. You all, I promise you, Stellar Group, we will literally spend all day talking about their bios, but what we'll see is Nana's going to drop their full bios in the chat so that you can be inspired. Continue, take it away, read on that. But this is just it. And finally, Renee has been recognized as a Schwab Foundation and World Economic Forum Social Innovator of the Year, inspiring 50 South Africa honoree. Renee continues to just do this incredible work, shaping this landscape, this ecosystem. So, without further ado, I think we're just going to go straight into questions. And as you can see, we have a wonderful group. And so, please spotlight as I speak. I am going to just start with. I'm going to start with Flora. Flora. So, Flora, to the right of my screen, you know, we've heard some interesting statistics. Yes, we've heard some interesting statistics, and you're in that phase where I feel like you're just ready to just give back. Let's not all make the same mistakes, right? Okay, so we've seen the stats for Africa. The women in Africa, which I actually love, have the highest rate of entrepreneurial activity globally. Highest globally. That's something,
Yeah.
please write it down, guys. That's huge. So it's 24% of adult women are launching or managing a business. In sub Saharan Africa, around 1 in 4 are involved in entrepreneurial activity, right? And then the women the women in Africa comprise about 58% of Africa's self employed population, contributing 13% of the GDP. Now, here's the question: funding remains this massive barrier for them. Funding remains this barrier. And whilst they're raising a little bit more than they did in previous years, we see stats for 2024, they raised about $48 million across the continent, still not where we need to be. It's about 4 times more than the previous year. Um, but we found that it's still lacking compared to the male founders who raised over $2 billion. So the question is, with 3 decades of experience that you've had, right, and Africa having this high rate of female entrepreneurship, yet when it comes to the high growth, which we're talking about, because we're saying go from hustle to scale and female led, there's a gap. You've obviously distinguished yourself. So just tell us in roughly 3 minutes for the questions, what do you think has made the difference for you? What deliberate choices did you decide, you know what, I'm not doing this, or I've learned from this. This is what you all should be doing as values or as structure, infrastructure within the organization to ensure that your organization got to where it was.
Thank you very much, and thanks for all the accolades. Sometimes we forget.
Dude.
And great to hear. Well, when I started Melvin's, which was about, well, let me begin by saying I fired myself from a job of 9 months, and I realized this is not me, but I didn't have the
Ooh,
language. Yeah, I didn't have the language to say I
I
wanted to
love
be an
that.
entrepreneur. I just said I want to be in business, but I was not even sure what that meant. So somehow I stumbled into an opportunity. There was no free-flowing salt in the country, so I went into that. But within 3 weeks, I realized, oh my goodness, this is not, it's salt is such a commodity. So I found another opportunity in tea. The government had just
Mhm.
lifted a monopoly. And I saw, wow, this is a great space to be. Kenyan tea had been Kenyan tea, black tea for the longest time. And I was like, why don't we have flavored tea? And that was one of my favorites. So I went and learned how to do that. And I did the black tea and then I did the flavored tea as a security in case this one doesn't work. And of course, which one picked up? The
I love
flavored tea. So that's how I became
it.
known as the queen of flavored tea.
Oh, I love
Fast
that.
forward, I just struggled at it. So I had no plan, no roadmap, no money. All I had was just a clear, I had this bee in my bonnet. And then I just knew I have no other career. So I had no other way than to go forward. I used a lot of my money and time on training, learning, calling up. There was no Google at the time, so it would be literally sitting at
Wow.
people's feet, teach me marketing, teach me this. As much as I had done it in college, practice is
Hmm.
totally, totally different. So when I look back to your question of why I've decided to pay it forward and why we have such a number, I was actually very surprised as well when I realized that women have quite small businesses, despite being the most entrepreneurial. One of the things I realized, women don't start businesses to be large. A lot of women start businesses for their convenience. I want to take my children to school. I don't want to be harassed. Somebody else is paying the bills. I'm fine. So they start this business of more or less on convenience. Women are less risk averse than men. And then when we find the ones that have broken through those two, then when we go to look for money, we don't have the collateral like the men do. So again, that is yet another barrier. And then beyond that, we tend to second guess ourselves. We have so many multiple roles. You know, you're a wife, you're a wife, you're a business person. And culturally, I'm sure this is across Africa, you're not forgiven for letting go of your home. So trying to
Mm.
find that balance also then tends to slow us down a little bit. So what I've done is, 30 years in, we are getting, of course, we are much larger. We are now going on the continent. And I've said, I want to pay it forward. So I've started a program I call Scale Mastery, where I'm telling people, and now I don't even take only women. The men have said, hey, there's just something about the program. So what I've done is I've said, it's not about growing. Growing is pushing and adding more and increasing your resources. And it's actually about scaling, where you start using levers, delegating, using people, automating, using tools, building partnerships so that you can infuse much faster. So that's what I've sort of done to make sure, to pay it forward. What would be my lessons? Number one, learn to do it scared is what I'll tell people. One of the problems is we always say, let me get it perfect. And it's an issue for our women, and begin one step at a time, however small, fail forward fast. That's what I say. When you have an idea, don't overthink it. Today with design thinking and minimum value proposition, take it to market quickly, fail quickly. And fail to me is first attempt in learning. It is actually not a fail. So take that, and I say feedback is the breakfast of champions. Take that feedback, wear it on your sleeve, and really, really rejection is redirection. So there are all these things I've learned as I've gone along that typically go against a grain of women because we are perfectionists. So I do surround myself with my brother as a silent partner and my hubby, and I'm always asking, hey, what would you do here? And sometimes I tell my people, we're doing it like men would do it. Just do it. Let's go failing. Let's learn and just. So I'd say that is what I've learned.
Thank you.
And that is what I'm teaching.
My goodness, thank you so much. Listen, I think for the audience, can you just write out whatever it is that's stuck with you? Because there are just so many things. Just put it in the chat and Flora will have a look at it as well. But it's just really wonderful to hear from the horse's mouth because you've raised so many different issues. So I love what you're saying about you're building a circle, but an intentional circle with people who are not going to create an echo chamber, right? So you said there are things that women will typically do. And I love how you say your brother as a silent partner. So there's almost, how back in the days, there used to be a bracelet called What Would Jesus Do bracelet for those who are Christians in the house. So this is almost like, what would men do in certain circumstances? Let's see. So what is that thing what is that courage muscle perhaps that I need to be using a lot more? And so that's really fantastic. And, finding a niche. I love that you pivoted as well. So not a lot of people know this, but I love how you mentioned that as well. You started with salt and then you said, there's this thing. And it's almost you're solving for a problem that you've also identified, right? And so you missed your flavor tea that you tried, and there's just not been a market. So let's do this, let's get some more, and let's have options. And then try it. Stop waiting for that perfection. And I love what you said because there's also that nexus with all of you here as speakers around looking for levers to basically help with that scaling. And sometimes people think they need to do it alone. So thank you for raising the points around levers, automation, collaboration, because you all do it so beautifully. And that is a wonderful way to kickstart this conversation. So I am moving this time. I'm going to going back on my screen. I see Engineer Obi. Engineer Obi, I'm coming to you. I don't know. I feel like Engineer Obi's screen is frozen. Obi, can you hear me? Could you please signal?
I can hear you.
Fantastic. Good. And so, Obi, I'm coming to you because, again, intentionally, we wanted a wonderfully diverse group of people in the room. And, we hear this word about hustling because there's so many people, especially whether it's with the generation, Gen Zs, the Gen Alphas, whatever it is you want to see, people are talking constantly about, how they want to go into business, how they want to grow their hustle, how they want to diversify, how they want to be their own boss. I don't want to work for anybody, right? And so it's really interesting to see what you've been able to achieve in a very short period of time. Maybe you absolutely represent African youth really well. And in a world that is noisy, especially when you're in Lagos, the world that is filled with so many distractions, I think it would be really wonderful to hear, especially for this new generation of African founders, right? What was it that basically gave you this drive? What was it that gave you the conviction and helped set you apart to make this decision to leave a life that was pretty comfortable? You were educated in the States, come back to your country, Nigeria, go down on this path and start on this journey around, youth-led innovation, industrial scale future. What was it that got you to this point so that we can hopefully get that into the mindset of a lot of young people who are listening and are going to hear this even after this session? Because absolutely, you all hear the credentials, the 40s or the 40, all of that wonderful stuff. Would love to just hear what you that point.
Thank you for that, Pearl. I appreciate that. And before I jump into this, I must say, Flora, you're amazing. Let's throw it out there first of all. You're amazing. Um, in a nutshell, initially I worked in big oil in America, in Europe, in the south of France. And when I moved back to Nigeria, they still had me in oil, but I wanted something different. I wanted to
Hmm.
find a way to create some level of impact. Honestly, I felt selfish just working for a company and earning a salary, which was quite healthy, and to start what I did.
I like that. Mhm.
Then, operating in Nigeria, when I moved back, I quickly saw quite a few things that was glaring to me. One was unemployment and underemployment above 40%. That kind of made no sense to me. Then I saw that the waste was prevalent, plastic and all forms of waste currently being mismanaged. Trash on the roadside, burning dump sites, mismanaged landfills, ocean plastic, you name it, it was a problem. And by the grace of God, I started doing some research, right? Quickly saw that 36 million tons of waste was generated annually in Nigeria. Only 10% was collected, and barely 2% was recycled. You do that math real quick, you quickly see a $5 billion untapped market opportunity. You dig a little bit deeper, you see a $3 billion carbon credit climate finance opportunity as well too. I say to myself, hey, something needs to be done. How do we tap into this space? And that's how we started the plastic recycling company about 4 years ago. But even with that, I heard a word again. I said, this is great, but it's not enough. What that meant was I need to find a way to backward vertically integrate and diversify my product portfolio. So I realized to get to the waste I wanted, I'd have to work with the government to some extent, the subnational and state government. So I went and I pitched to them how we can convert what was once seen as a cost burden to them to become a revenue generation engine for them. So the little funding you have for waste that's not being properly utilized, save it, repurpose it into healthcare, infrastructure, education, right? And let me valorize all your waste streams, right? And help you earn money via fees, via recyclable sales, and via credits. When they saw that, they opened a competitive bid process, and I think our value proposition was just what they needed, and they signed up with us. So we've secured our first waste concession, and we should be managing waste for 5 million people for the next 10 years for a particular state government. Then we have two other more state governments knocking on our door to do the exact same thing for them. For me, it's always been about profit with purpose, and from plastic recycling into greater waste management, scale with impact. It's something I'm extremely passionate about. And when I really think back, I realize my process is more how can I give as opposed to how can I take and extract. That's what led me to this. Thank you.
Oh my goodness. Obi, that's really beautifully articulated and just gives you reason to just press pause, right? And again, would love to maybe unpack that even more. What got you to that? Because you've made it very clear that you could have been comfortable, right? So you had a very wonderful path. You had a wonderful life. You were moving from different parts of the world. Like this is the dream for a lot of people from this part of the world. But I love how you also articulated it's not just one thing. You saw a problem, but you also tied the problem to a solution that could be monetized. Because that's another thing. Because it's one thing to say you want to solve it, but then it's really beautiful and it's a game changer for lots of people where you can tie it to a solution that can be monetized. And then I love how you tied it into a systems change solution as well. So I know for some people on the call, you're familiar with it, some people who are not. But ultimately, we're just saying with systems change, we're saying, let's think even bigger. Let's think even grander around solving solutions, right? We don't just want to carry out programs or do a business that it feels a little bit more selfish and tied to yourself. You're saying we have a big continent. We've seen the stats around young people on the continent. We know what the numbers will be. So you're saying how do I take this to state governments? Because ultimately, a lot of work in this space is done because people are plugging gaps that the government isn't able to fulfill, right? And so I really love the way your mind was working and how you decided to approach governments who perhaps have never thought about it like that, to go, look, you have a waste problem. How about we monetize this and create a business that is sustainable, that is going to create jobs? Absolutely. I'm looking at some of the comments coming through. Thank you so much, Jacob. Please put in your thoughts around this. And if you have additional things you'd like to unpack with our speakers, we can do that as we go through these questions. But that is phenomenal. But I still want to speak to your parents, Obi, to know what got them to get you to think about comparing profit with purpose and not just being very selfish about it. But I think it's a wonderful thing to absolutely see. So now that we've talked about systems change, I'm going to take us to our panelist, who also is very well versed in this, is constantly thinking about how to go broader, right? How do we go broader? And how do we bring in partners and stakeholders who are going to make this happen? And again, Renee, you know that I'm coming for you. If Renee is able to have her screen on, it would be really wonderful. But really, would love to hear from Renee and your R Labs journey. Remember, I told you this started with a dream that Renee had in Cape Town, one business, and somehow this has exploded. Exploded is the only word I can use, where you're in over 24 countries and counting, is what I'm going to say, because Renee is very, very busy. So Renee, maybe you can speak to us a little bit about how this started, how this started for you. How did you get to this particular point? And for us, it's to basically tell us a little bit about how our labs got to the point, tell us a bit about what our labs does and how our labs got to collaborating with the South African government to support job creation. Because if you have a look at this chat, you see people from all over the world. And I love that we have people from as far as America as well, because people are also learning. There are going to be solutions that we have on the continent that people in other parts of the world haven't thought about. And so it's always exciting to hear about people solving problems that are uniquely ours on this continent with solutions that are also uniquely ours as well. So please tell us a little bit, for those who are not familiar, about our labs and this collaboration that you have with the South African government to support job creation.
Thank you. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Well, I love your energy. I think you are definitely keeping us all on our toes. I really wasn't sure what's going to come out of your mouth and what question you're going to ask me. But I can definitely talk about Art Labs. I can talk about Art Labs for hours. So Art Labs, we a social enterprise. And if I should just say, we do three things. We build people build enterprises, and we help them scale. And I know that's a really simplified version of what we do. And so building in people, we run an academy where we train skills development training specifically with young people in digital skills, high impact digital skills. And once you train people and you create an environment of learning, people will solve their own problems. People know their problems, they can identify it, and they will solve their own problems. And so we have an innovation lab where people can come up with ideas or solutions, and we would take it through a sandbox process or get it to a validated phase. And then we help them scale it. And then we have an incubator, and they would go into the incubator. So that's generally the process and the journey for anyone coming into our labs. But then, and that was initially our plan, was really just to change one person's world. We can have a big grand goal and you think, oh, I'm going to save the world and change the world. But no, you can just change one person's world. They then in turn will change someone else's world. And that's just a ripple effect. Our tagline at Art Labs is called Making Hope Contagious, because we believe that hope not shared is not real hope. And so it needs to be shared. So whether people come through our training, and we don't charge people for anything. And of course, you're supposed to charge, right? And we say, you know what, there's two things you need to do. The first one is you need to smile. So when you come into training, you need to smile. And of course, smiling is also contagious, right?
Absolutely. And it's free.
And it's free, man. Because, in the communities we work, it's really hard. People come into our training, they had, life is hard. And so you can't just expect to teach someone something, and yet they're dealing with all this personal things that's happening. And so we really try to create this environment where people can share hope with one another. And the second thing you need to do is to pay it forward. So whatever you were taught, whatever you learned, teach someone else, show someone else, whether it's under a tree somewhere, whether it's going back to your family, whatever it is, just share what you've learned. That's also a way for us to, we think, oh, I have to go to school, I have to go to university. Unfortunately, not everyone has that opportunity. But knowledge is out there. We really just shouldn't be keeping it to ourselves. And so we've been doing this for the last 16 years. So when we talk about replicating in other countries, it's different parts of what we do, but it's really the ethos, and it's the idea that we can create enabling environments where people can thrive, people can learn, people can create, and there's so many other things to do. And our role really as R Labs, and especially over the last couple of years, has shifted a little bit to be the, I'm going to use the word peacemaker, because we're really the go-between between whether it's government, whether it's corporate and community, right? So even for our
I like that word. I'm going to write it down, the peacemaker.
I know, because, when you speak to community, people generally don't have nice things to say about government. When you speak to government, they're like, we have all these opportunities and all these things, and especially about young people, they have a lot to say about young people. And then they would say the young people are not taking the opportunities. And so we're hearing all these things and we're like, you know what? If we actually just talk to each other or actually listen to one another, we will understand our goal is exactly the same. What the people want, what the government wants, what the corporate wants, ultimately, we all want the same thing. We just talk about it differently. It might look differently, and our approach might be different. So that's the role that we've been playing, this convening role, but only like now, in the last couple of years, and understanding what a responsibility it is, because we still have to have our ear on the ground. We have to know what is the community saying, and then we have to sit in a meeting with government officials or whoever's the decision makers, and we have to really advocate, this is what the people are saying, and listen to government. And they're like, we have these things that we have to deliver and we have to do. And so we really just try to meet the two. So working with government is, I don't want to advise just anyone to do it. It's really an art. And we found that having the relationship.
I like that. Sorry.
No, it's not. You can read all these books, on how to engage, I don't know, stakeholders and all those things. But everyone is a human being, even a government official. Even the president of a country or the CEO of a company, everyone is a human being. And so we've really just looked at how do we engage on that level. We're talking about humanity, we're dealing with human beings. We talk about systems change, but those are things that can be changed, right? And it's not going to affect anyone. But when we talk about human beings and how we treat each other and how we see one another, it's a different level. And so having to engage with government on that level has been really interesting, taken a long time building trust, but building trust both ways. I get a lot, building trust, and both ways, because the first thing, if it's a government, especially government department, because we also know, right, that the government departments don't speak to each other, which I wish they did. So depending on who you're dealing with, everyone has a different view and how they work. So in the first conversations are generally, they don't know us. They might have heard about us somewhere. Maybe they dealt with another nonprofit or another organization before. And, there were other things that really went wrong, went askew. And so they're not trusting. For us, it might have been the same way. We might have had promises made, and especially for the community, promises get made and they don't get seen through. So there's really very little trust between the two. And so building that trust, we find like takes time. We have to, you have to put in the time. It's almost like dating. If you like someone and you want to date someone, it takes time. And so it's
Oh
not
boy.
like
Sorry, I'm
I don't know if that's it. Right?
It is. I love it. I love
But-
it, Renee. This is a perfect point for me. Okay. If I just get your last 30 seconds on that question, because I have to come back to you for more questions.
Okay. So the one department we work with, and we run this program specifically for young people. It's our called Youth Employment Initiative. That's part of the government's initiative.
Yeah.
And I think that's really been a good way for us to get young people into the marketplace. And they provide stipends for that. And we've been doing this now, I think, for the last 5 years. And again, for them, it's like we want to get young people into jobs. And for us, it's like, okay, we want young people to stay in jobs. It's not just about getting them there. It's about making sure and that the work is meaningful. Young people are going to leave a job, whether it's paying a lot or not, if it's not meaningful. This generation is really different to the way we started work before.
Absolutely.
But I'll stop there.
Oh my, no, I love what you said, especially so many bits to unpack, that YES program you mentioned. And I'm saying this because, again, I'm very, very passionate about this, that there'll be solutions from this continent that people haven't heard about or haven't experienced in other parts of the world. And this YES program always gets me excited. So for those who don't know, Renee's touched on it, right? And feel free to add some more to it. But it's a program that is allowing you work with government. Government wants to get young people into jobs. Government is giving them stipends. You're ensuring that they have the readiness skills. You're matching them with organizations and employers. So there's a wonderful handshake. And you said something about it being like a marriage. And honestly, we keep finding that is the underbelly to key relationships, right? And I love how you've humanized government, because a lot of the time, I know that we all have our challenges. And I love that you said it's an art form, but it's just reminding us that they are humans. They're human beings. You're building relationships, right? And it goes both ways. So trust will always be the foundation, whether it's marriage, whether it's a government relationship, any of that, or your employees, right? So thank you for reminding us. Audience, I hope you are paying attention. These people have done it successfully, not for one day, not for 2 days, for decades. They've learned, do not make all the mistakes yourself. Are you taking notes? Are you paying attention? Are you writing down their LinkedIn handles? Stalk them after this. Go to their website, send them the messages on those groups. So I'm going to come around for another round of questions. And now, Flora, I know that you touched on this, and people will want to hear, Nigerians will say this thing. For my Nigerians in the house, they say this thing where they say, cut me some soap, which is in local parlance, cut me some of your soap, essentially, which means there's something you're doing right. And I want to know what it is. So can you give me a little bit of that magic? Give me some of your magic, right, Flora? And so you talked about some wonderful things in the first segment. But now I want to delve a little bit deeper, because you see, this finance issue, this collateral issue is always going to come up. Now, for those who followed your story intensely, they will say that for your organization, there was a particular moment where things took off. I'll call it the game changer. There's a song by a Nigerian artist called The Game Changer. Now, for you, what would you say was that real kickoff? Was it the financial? Was it the network of people you were mixing with? What took it to that next level for you? What triggered the increase in visibility, in profitability for you? How did you surmount that financial hurdle? So I'll give you 5 minutes for that, please. Sorry, 3 minutes for that.
Sorry.
There we go.
Saying, let me cut you some soap. I've never heard that one, actually.
Yeah.
I think for me, I must admit, my first couple of years, because I had no business plan, I had no experience, I was in my 20s, and I really didn't even know what I was doing. My first couple of years were very difficult, and I actually tried to sell the business not once but twice. And that's because it was, I couldn't move, I couldn't get anything done. So my first loan, actually, I found from a collateral-backed loan by IFC. But I went to market, I found it, and I sort of begged, borrowed, and asked my mother to support me. It was a big fight. And eventually she was like, okay, fine. So I got a little bit of a loan. But then I started just breaking it up and trying to pay all my suppliers and my machinery suppliers, it was not enough. So I used to bounce checks and actually feel nothing. Because I needed to move, So when somebody calls me and says, this check hasn't gone through, I say, I know, I'm waiting for this payment, just hold on. I think I just carried everybody in my drama. Fast forward, of course, I learned how to go to market. I learned that making the product is one thing, but creating demand is the biggest and most important thing that entrepreneurs don't do enough of. So when I learned what that was, I actually took my car, I sold it and bought a pickup, the pickup truck. And I started going around estates with dancers, and we'd say, talk about this product. It's mixed with flavored tea and it's different.
There you go,
marketing, town to town to town to town to town. And slowly it started picking up, and it wanted to be listed in a supermarket. I got all my friends and cousins to request the product, so that then the supermarket would be saying, hey,
oh, I love it. So are you listing people? Use your extensive African families, put them to good use, okay? Get them moving. Thank you, Flora.
And then slowly it just started catching. I mean, it took my own mother 4 years to buy my product solely. She'd buy mine, but she'd still buy my competition. 4 years. Because I was changing a whole palette. Kenyans were just used to black tea. So they were like, why is it mixed? And how is it mixed? And are they separate? And So I also feel that was also part of my success, because when you go into a market, especially today, there's such a world of abundance, you have to stand out. So the fact that I niched very early, as much as it was difficult, is what has helped me survive. Because all of a sudden, everybody was curious. Let me have a little bit of that. Let me have a little bit of that. And that, even till today, I think is what keeps opening our doors. So through the period, how have we stayed alive? Alive is, for me, the customer is king, and it's not a cliche. So I'll give you an example. As I started doing flavors, I actually talk to people. What flavor do you put in your tea? So some will tell me lemongrass. Others will tell me I like green tea. So let me give you an example. During COVID, the world went home, and I called my team and I said, do we go home and wait? And they said, what are we waiting for? Let us just go to work. Let's follow the protocols. And so I started following my customer. My customer was at home. So we turned up all our delivery channels. We went into the supermarkets and really tried to collaborate with them so that I could get your product delivered to your house. When people came back to the office, we then actually went and did vending machines, because they started saying there are not enough people in the office. We don't have a tea girl. So I said, okay. So I gave them a vending machine. So you just press a button and you get your tea. And that forced me to go into instant tea. So when COVID sort of lifted, I made instant tea now the next product. So we have tea that it's just tea on the go. You grab it, pop it in hot water, and it works. So those are the kind of things I keep. Those are the kind of things that have really made us perhaps survive, because I jealously follow my customer and I give them what they want. I have focus groups. I've sat in focus before people knew who I was. I would actually sit in the focus group as a scribe, and I would listen, and my heart would be turning and I'm like, how dare you say my product? But that teaches you, and that's why I was saying, feedback. Feedback is the breakfast of champions. Remove the emotion.
Take out the emotion. No. Woof. Oh, that is so beautiful. Thank you so much. We need 2 hours for this, but we don't have 2 hours, so I'm going to get through. But just highlighting again, that feedback being king, don't be emotional about it. Jealously guard that feedback. Now, something I wanted to add to the marketing that you mentioned, I love how it's obviously, this was years ago, you were doing it manually, but then social media generation, you all can do even far more. So it's just taking that and absolutely running with it. So thank you for that.
And perfect it. Master it and perfect. Master it and perfect it. Mediocre doesn't cut it.
Absolutely. And would you say that IFC initial loan then led to another domino effect for other sources of funding coming through?
Yes, definitely. And we just kept going back and back and back. The game is still the same. We still need more money than we have. But, you get bigger, you get collateral, you get assets, and you're able to play the game. Yeah.
Absolutely. Fantastic scale. Now, Obi, There is something lovely about what you've done in that, again, you've looked at an organization with Kaltani. For those of you who don't know, like I said to you, go and stalk him. Kaltani covers the A to Z, the chain of plastics recycling. And what I mean by that is they do the collection. Remember, we said it's industrial scale collection, processing, resale, right? Now, for those, because we're saying go from hustle to scale, how important, from your vantage position, would you say this value chain control is in scaling businesses? You know, because African entrepreneurs are under, I know you've described this as undervaluing this vertical integration as a strategy. Right now, Kaltani is empowering, what, 500 to 1,000 waste pickers per month across communities. These are game changers. So just tell us a little bit about how important you think people should be thinking about this value chain control.
Thank you for your question. I must say, before I answer your question, I'm loving this panel. And Flora, you're giving me energy, man. You have no idea, man. You're giving me energy. So let me jump into this. So complete vertical integration or value chain integration. The thing is this, right?
Yeah.
It's necessary for our survival. I'd prefer to operate in just say one space as opposed to the entire space because it's easier that way, right? But what I mean is necessary for survival is because the nature of our space, the waste management industry, right? It's at its infancy stage, so to speak, right? So we're developing everything as it goes along. And initially it was the A to Z of plastic recycling. Yes, collecting, yes, recycling, yes, lab testing, packaging, putting in a container, exporting to Europe. That was great. But now we're starting to do that with waste management because we're now beyond plastic recycling. We've looked at the waste composition in Nigeria, and over 50% of that is organic. So why only play in plastic? We're now playing in organic waste and agri waste and converting that to biochar, so regenerate for regenerative agriculture, right? So we can also play in the carbon credit market too. So again, I must emphasize, we're not doing it because we want to do it. We're doing it because we have to do it. Initially, when I started, I thought we'd just be processes of recycling of plastic waste, right? I quickly saw some inefficiencies in our supply chain, right? You sign contracts with suppliers, supply you plastic waste, inconsistency, wrong supply volumes, wrong quality, everything was wrong. So we realized we have to collect ourselves, right? And we started empowering waste pickers to the process. But now we recently built a digital app called Trash Bash. So it's enabled us to empower more than 500,000 waste pickers, and we're now empowering households in general. Right now, we're going through the painstaking effort of enumerating all our customers in Abia State. So with that app, we should have about 300,000 households signed up to that app. What does that mean?
Woo.
With the app, they can pay their waste fees. I can then incentivize them for proper recycling behavior. So you separate your plastics, your aluminum, your paper, and I incentivize you for it. Then we sell carbon credits, and I give you a quick bonus on carbon credits, what you were not expecting. Now you participate in that, so to speak, benefit as well too.
Amazing.
Right? If everybody,
that is amazing. Yeah.
If all stakeholders are not benefiting in the process, and I mean government, company, investors, and individuals in the cities we operate in, what's the purpose of doing it? There's no purpose doing it for me, right? So because everyone can benefit within that value chain, all stakeholders, that gives me an immense level of joy. And when I say we're building it all out right now, we're actually, right now as we speak, we have a team of 100 people going door to door, signing people up, payer ID, name, number, address, phone number, email, social account, payer ID, here you go. With this app, right now you can make money and empower yourselves. So I foresee us by this time next year, that number of 1,000 waste pickers, we're talking about 200, 300,000 households now earning extra revenue from their own waste.
Guys, can you hear me click? I need you to do some clicking. I mean, this panel, you guys have me, and literally, I'm going to come work for you all after this, like render my services for real. But honestly, Obi, I wish we had even more time to unpack, but I'm just taking something away from it because I love how Flora told us she focused on her niche, a different market, different products. And you started off with framing it and saying your industry was different. It was new, it was nascent. And so, of course, you had to basically create this end to end in a sense. You're reinventing the wheel. I remember I said that for us on the continent, we're going to be preferring some solutions that don't exist in other parts of the developed or the global north. And so, this is one of those examples where there's a mindset shift that's happening. There's a collaboration model that's also happening that's going to be different to anything anybody has seen. And I want to bring this nicely to ties into Renee, because Renee, you're dealing with entrepreneurs every day. You've done this for decades, right? You've seen them successfully go from, sometimes I'm sure they come to you petrified, scared, directionless, and I'm sure that you have some incredible testimonies that you've seen over the years. So I just want you to just leave our audience with some of those things that you, in your experience, have seen as common threads or traits of those who've been able to move from hustle to scale within the innovators that you work with in the final 3 minutes so that we can round up.
So, I was thinking about this, and especially the entrepreneurs that we're working with. So nobody. Well, very few of our entrepreneurs has studied entrepreneurship, right? And I think earlier on it was mentioned that you get into it for whatever reason. Right? And then you start reading the books, and then you get into an incubator, and then it's really quite reversed. So for the entrepreneurs, we see, of course, there's two types. There's ones that, I'm doing it because I want to feed my family, I want to live, and I want to do this now. And that's it. And, and of course, there's nothing wrong with that. We find that I just call them livelihood entrepreneurs. These were the people that really kept our economy going anyway when lockdown happened, because these were the people that could still trade, could still do things, and we were able to eat and clothe ourselves during that time. And then, of course, there's entrepreneurs that want to scale. They want to either have a family business and it needs to be a legacy project, or they quite innovative, and so they're coming up with these things, and then they want to exit at some point. But we found that all the entrepreneurs, when they come in, and that's why it's really important, if there are any entrepreneurs on this call, my advice to you would be plug yourself into, whether it's an incubator, whether it's a support group or something. Don't do it alone. I think that's, one of the most dangerous things for any entrepreneur. Plug yourself into some system or organization that's more than just you and your buddies. I think
hallelujah.
Are really, really important. And we've seen through these programs, they might not have come in, with the idea that, I can even innovate, or I can scale. But the minute they come into an environment where other entrepreneurs are thinking about it, or part of our master classes talks about it, then they are like, oh, I can scale, but then how? The how always comes. And so that's why it's important to be part of a program already, because that helps, it becomes your support group. And even for us, we found we have to also now do the first level of funding. And that's why we had to start Art Labs Angels, really. Because our entrepreneurs don't have social capital. They don't have family and friends that can borrow their money, or assets that they can put it on for surety, so they can't get loans from the bank. So where are they going to get funding in order to scale their business or to grow their business? And so our labs, we've had to become that for them. This part of the social capital network. And that's why it's important for entrepreneurs, plug into something that's bigger than yourself, that's part of you building your social capital, because that is what you need. And so for the scaling, then it becomes easier, right? And so we found, and especially across countries, there's different solutions that can work in other countries. And we encourage our entrepreneurs, when you're building a solution, or when you're wanting to pivot, or when you're wanting to change, think about your solution. Of course, we've seen all our entrepreneurs are really social impact. It's making a social impact. People are worried about the environment, about the planet, about their families and communities. So the solutions have impact focus, But then we encourage him, okay, it needs to be sustainable. So how are you going to make money? Where's your market? Where's your customers and all of those things? And then the third thing is it needs to be scalable. You can't just build for now. You need to build already, because it's really hard to go back. Once you have an innovation or a solution that's already built in, especially when you have technology involved, then you're deciding to scale. Your devs that worked on that in the beginning is really going to give you a hard time, because you need to break everything down. And so we also just encourage entrepreneurs, build for scale from the beginning. At least let the foundation be there. And I think, for anyone on the continent, our continent is so big. The world is so big. Our markets with internet and with all these technologies, scaling is not hard to do. But a lot of the time, our solutions are not ready to scale. And so we need to, encourage our entrepreneurs from the beginning, just build it in. And again, if you're not looking at it, a lot of the time, somebody else needs to tell you, hey, this is where we see you. And I'll just show you a quick example. When OddLab started out, and, we were doing all this great and amazing work. And so we thought, and there was Rancho Spanici, he came with the university, and he came to us and he kept telling us, guys, you need to scale, and what I'm seeing is so much bigger than you. And we thought, no way, man, let us just focus here. Let us just continue. We're happy, we're seeing the moving parts, but it took someone else to come from outside to really, like I would say, pull us a lot of the time, knock us on our heads or something, and say, this can scale. This is bigger than what you think it is. And so therefore, for entrepreneurs, be in an environment that there will be somebody telling you that, because a lot of the time you are not going to see.
I love that.
Thank you.
Oh my goodness. I have chills, guys. I am gutted that we don't have even more time. But for those who don't know who Francois Bonici is, Francois heads up the World Economic Forum's Schwab Foundation. Thank you so much for sharing that, Renee. And it's that thing, and I've seen this come up again and again with our different panelists. You've got to get someone who's able to dream bigger than you're actually dreaming. You've got to get plugged into this community. Catalyst is one of those families. There's so many others. You have our labs. Whatever it is, don't do it alone. Do it quick, fail fast. I mean, there's so many bits I just feel like I want to sit in. So I'm just going to ask very quickly, Nana and Adrian, are there any questions from the audience that we can very quickly share? And we so apologize for running over time, but we hope that you found this really valuable. I'm gutted to leave. I don't want to go. No, but whilst we're looking to see if there are any questions, I'm just going to ask, because Renee, that question gave you a good chance to reflect on this question I'm going to put to Flora and E. It's a very simple 1 minute. What I wish I knew then that I know now. So if you were reflecting, it could be what I could tell younger Flora, what I could tell even younger Obi. So whatever it is, just think about that if we have no, okay. And so whichever one of you is ready to go, either Flora or Obi, please feel free to just unmute and tell us. You're going to leave the audience with one thing you wish you knew then that you know now, or you'd like to share, or you tell your younger self.
I can go. I think what I would tell my younger self, that trust the process. It will be okay. I spent so many sleepless nights. Is this gonna work? Is this, thinking small, not allowing myself to really whatever. And then be an agile learner. Okay, that I was, but there's so much time I spent just fumbling and not being sure and asking 5 different people. Trust the process, especially today. There's so much support, exactly like Renee is saying. There's so much support for entrepreneurs today. So many guardrails. In my time, we were fighting to be an entrepreneur. You're fighting to be a lady in business. You're fighting. I mean, we've got so much. So for me, I think it is that. And to also remember, perfect is the enemy of good. Do it when it is good enough. When it is just good.
Listen, okay. Flora, you've given me slogan for my t-shirt.
And the other one is always be ready. Opportunities meet the ones who are ready, never the ones who are not ready. So just stay ready. Don't get ready, just stay ready. So those would be my parting shots.
Stay ready. Stay ready. I was going to attempt a song, but I will not. So let me preserve. My daughter would kill me if she heard me sing it. Stay ready, so you don't need to get ready. Maybe Obi can help us. But honestly, it's been made into a song. It is important. I mean, be an agile. Look at it. Thank you for writing it out. This audience, I'm literally audience. I'm giving you guys the clicks and the claps because you've been brilliant, brilliant. Honestly, and people feed off of it. And these are things that will last stand the test of time. So really, really honored that you spent this time with us. And finally, Obi, if you could please tell us one thing you'd like to tell younger Obi, looking back on this.
Thank you. I tell younger Obi, you'll get more no's than yeses, so don't be in a hurry. Practice what I call systemic urgency. Also, I'd say trust God in everything you do in entrepreneurship, especially in Nigeria, and keep the faith. And finally, I'd say find someone that believes in you so much that it even scares you. And hold on to it like no other. And I mean, hold on to, don't let that person go, because there will be dark days. And it's those words of encouragement that literally keep you going. That's my advice to maybe a 30-year-old Ovi. Now, 40-year-old, so thank you.
Oh, guys, guys, I need you to unmute yourselves. Let's just do drum rolls, make noise for this panel because you guys have given me life. Honestly, you all have given us life. I cannot even begin to express like how much it's been energizing to hear you all. And interestingly, just finding threads between what you're saying as well. This is not random, guys. I love the story. There's even love stories roving in there, Obi. I'm taking love story out of that as well. Find that person who's going to believe in you so much. If you can find, choice of a life partner is important in these things. And so, no, but seriously, it's finding people who believe in you, who dream bigger. There's so many tidbits we've taken away from this that I can't even begin. Obi mentioned, yes, I was going to ask him, systemic urgency. Can you explain that finally for someone who doesn't understand? What do you mean by systemic urgency?
What I mean by systemic urgency is quite simple, actually. A lot of times we're in a hurry, and you're in a hurry to nowhere, right? But like Flora said, right? It's essentially what Flora did, but just don't stop. Keep pushing forward. Don't wait for everything to be perfect. Fail fast, fail forward, and continue again, right? Fail fast, fail forward, innovate, keep going. Don't stop. Systemic urgency and build those right relationships. And one thing I should have added earlier was transparency and integrity will open doors faster than any amount of money or connection. So for anything, don't ever fault on that.
Don't compromise. Beautiful. I think every one of the panelists would agree with that. From the funding that was raised, Flora's time, I'm sure that was one of the reasons why they came to you, because you don't get funding from the likes of IFC without having your transparency and accountability in check. Renee, you're working with government, you're building out the trust, you're working with young people, you're working with people from disadvantaged homes who've not had opportunities given. Honestly, you have given us so much food for thought. We cannot thank you enough for this session. Remember that this will be recorded. It will be on our platform. This week is incredibly hectic with so many different sessions happening. And so there are people who are torn and want to come and couldn't come. And so they will definitely get a chance to listen to this. I'll just stop by saying we were honored, absolutely honored by your wisdom, by your presence, by your intentionality in answering these. God bless you. We appreciate you. This is from the Africa Forward, the Catalyst family. You heard the round of applause, guys. Give them some final emojis, and thank you all the audience for the time and for the engagements, because this is all about what it's for. It's not just for us, it's for the system to change, for our beautiful continent to thrive, for economic development, for us to spread the knowledge, to open up the mindsets. We appreciate you all. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you.